Microbial methods to transform any soil. I'm excited to talk to you today about this because it touches upon so many things. If I'd only known better back in the day. Anybody have a story like that? Anybody have that kind of experience? Well, over a decade ago, I was just starting. It was my first season. I thought I was good at gardening. Do you ever have that experience where you think you're good at something and then you realize you're not? Well, I thought I was good at gardening. It was a sobering experience because the second year, my father-in-law brought in, this compost and it was bull manure. And the guy had said, assured him that it was good compost, and it was not good compost. It was BS compost. It was still hot. Have you ever gotten compost that's too hot, or you've had a chicken manure and mixed it into your soil mix and it's just too hot? Have you ever experienced that? Hot as in high in nitrates, right? It can burn you. If you have a chicken coop and your hands are dirty and you rub your nose, you literally can give yourself like a chemical burn on your nose from just a little bit of the high nitrate manure. So you want to be careful with this. So, what do you think happened? High nitrate, I bet you can guess. It grew weeds, right? This is a classic story. Have you experienced the same story? It grew plants without fruit. Have you ever had that happen? Well, it's because of this. Have you guys seen this before? The reality is we have the ability to cue things with the pH, with the type of nitrogen we have available, and they trigger vegetative growth or reproductive. And so you need ammonium, not nitrate, for reproductive growth, for fruiting. And it also implies it was alkaline, right? So hot compost is alkaline oxidized. So if I had only known about EM, yeah, if I'd only known about this stuff called EM, I would have been okay. But what happened is, I didn't. You're like, well, why? Why? Well, have you guys ever seen this chart before? So this is the chemical pathways. This is why your compost on the left, conventional compost, shrinks. And this is why compost on the right with EM ferments and it doesn't gas off. So the fact that it turns the nitrogen into amino acid is hypercritical for us. All right. And so it turns into amino acid, not a nitrate. Okay. What is it though? Why is it doing that? Well, EM is a effective microbes. It's a product. You can buy it, but you can extend it and you can also grow it yourself. It's only lactic acid bacteria, purple non-silver bacteria, and beer and bread yeast for the most part. There's streptomyces and other things in there as well. But this is primarily what it is. Lactic acid bacteria is the thing that's going to transform the nitrates into amino acids. So so we have an opportunity to partner with these microbes. It just looks like a drink almost, but they've got a drink form for this. You don't want to just have random people's thing. But I could have fixed the BS compost easily if I'd only known this. And I know many of you are like, I've heard the BS compost story before, but did you hear the ending like this? No, this is new. I am looking back at that time period of my life and recognizing that I could have done better if I only had known about the powerful microbes that are in EM. And so it could have been my water kefir. I was already putting kefir grains in my compost tea and keep left excess kefir grains in my compost, my pit compost. They're already part of my modality, already part of what I was doing, but I didn't consciously understand or do it. And so I could have done a huge batch of water kefir and poured it onto the compost and literally turned it into amino acids too. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to sell you on anything. Like you can do this and figure this out for you and figure out what's possible. So recognize like the possibilities here if I had only known. And that's why I'm here to talk to you today about all this because I want you to be able to know. But wait, who am I? Well, if you know my story, I'm Matt Powers. I was a ski racer growing up. That's why permaculture topographic maps made so much sense to me. You know, the steepest areas on the map, that's where we go fast. And that's also, where you have the most erosion. Right, right. And so I was a musician after I had knee surgery, and I basically my career as a ski racer ended at 15. I became a musician after I was a ski racer because I couldn't take a right turn at 60 miles per hour like I used to be able to. And then I met Rachel Ray's husband. I played in his band. He's got in the green shirt. And then Rachel Ray became Rachel Ray and became world famous and a best-selling. Yeah. And then we hired Saturday Night Live's drummer since the early 90s, Sean Pelton, the guy in the black hat, to be in our band. And then John hired Rotundi, the guy in the camo shirt, who was the former Guitar Player magazine editor. Billy Gibbons, was the top guy. He just showed up that day because he wanted to show Rachel his hot sauce. For real. And so it was just, I just got to like go along with this crazy adventure, and I'd still be hanging out and doing that if I hadn't met my wife. I met my wife, we got married. I knew she was my wife 3 days in, and within 2 years, she got cancer. She was dealing with all this fatigue. They were doing a biopsy on her thyroid, and in the middle of the biopsy, they removed her whole thyroid without her permission. They told me what they were going to do, and they told me like it was an order, and I was in so much shock that I just was it wasn't asked. Schneider told me, Dr. Schneider, and anyway, it this changed my whole life. I I wasn't prepared as a bass player in a band. You know what I mean? I wasn't prepared to like take care of a child. We had a 1 year old. You know what I mean? And everything he meant everything to me. And to lose my wife, we're newlywed phase currently, right? 2 years in, you know, some people's newlywed phase, goes fast, but for us, we were still there for sure. So so I left the band after she prayed about it and asked me to pray about it. Whenever I say that though, she's like, "You're blaming it on me," and I'm like, "Well, no, actually, when I prayed about it, I didn't want, I tell the people it's when I tell the story, I'm like literally telling my wife this. Um, I tell them that I prayed about it, and the answer I got I didn't like. It was that we had to move, and it wasn't your fault. It was the right thing to do. And then I tell her that I always followed up with the subbing in Fresno, and because we needed health care, and and w- I became a school teacher because we needed the money, but it changed me. I became a real teacher. I became an educator, a student advocate. I it became who I was, you know, and it was because of how poorly treated students are in America, especially in California. And they're robbed of an education. They're essentially held in these prisoner schools. And I got into a charter school, and they hired me. I was the school's like top sub. So they saw that Matt could sub math, Matt could sub science, Matt could do anything. Matt could do anything, as a sub. And then I got my credential in English, and then I eventually got in history, and I just loved it. If you guys know me now, you're like, you're an academic, Matt. You're a nerd. We get it. But at this point in my life, I actually, if you find early videos of interviews with that band and me, I don't talk the same. I am not an intellectual in that phase. I was trying to like blend into a band and not sound intellectual, right? The last thing you want to do is like try to tell, well, I did make lots of mistakes, but try to tell like Sean Pelton how it is. Like literally, he's a living legend in the music industry, a drummer. And then they had the best stories. I just listened and learned. But when I became a teacher, everything changed. There was a congruency, and my mom was a teacher. She's the person who created all special ed curriculum for middle schools in America. She first created it as a student teacher, and then it was adopted into New York state law, and then adopted all over America. That was my mom. And then when she went to get her master's degree at Columbia, they taught her herself back to her. So I don't think I'll ever fill those shoes, but I love my mom. So, so we had our other son at this time period. It's very, very hard on my wife. I got into food because I realized food was like the only thing I could control. The cancer kept coming back. I didn't know what to do. I'm, you know, I may be able to like, sub in school and stuff, but and help with algebra one for Denise, but I'm not a doctor, right? Even today, I always say, I'm not a doctor, right? But I understood that nutrition was the one thing I could control and that I could get it right. And so I started growing our own food. I raised the boys in the garden. You can see Oliver's little toes in the top of the picture. His feet are not this small anymore. Yeah, yeah, we raised our boys with animals and soil and hard work and wonder and curiosity and exploration and nature teaching us. I so many people like talk about regrets in life. I am so grateful for the decision to raise my kids in nature. Got into seeds, got into heirlooms, started growing things that were impossible to grow in North America and figuring it out. And then I wrote a book on permaculture. I did this all throw, so I had a crazy impressive garden. I grew in 140-degree soils with no water. This is 3 months into that. And then I wrote a book that was that curriculum that made this much money in 30 days and went all around the world. And I became a teacher. I became a citizen scientist. My boys in this process have grown up. I've written a lot. I love creating. I love teaching. And I become an entrepreneur in this whole process. And all of it has been to build that bridge to a regenerative future, to be able to connect people to a future that gets better and better and allows them to make the right decisions. So, are you dealing with bad soil? Because, the title of this series, How to Build Regenerative Soil, kind of implies that a lot of us are dealing with challenging soils. And this makes sense. Do you know that most of the property, most of the land, most of the soil that we are working on has already been abused? We're inheriting problems that are in some cases centuries, some cases thousands of years old. So bad soil is going to be ubiquitous. Good soil is going to be hyper rare. And just like with like terra preta, it's going to be a story behind that. Thank you all for being here. I hope that you're enjoying yourself. I'm going to start here and we're going to ramp up to a whole series of things. But I started off with this and turned it into this. And this is my first my garden site, my first permaculture site. And I want to talk about why. Because for a lot of people, this leap right here is literally the gap that they feel is insurpassable, right? Just this to this. Okay. So this is my story. So starting in the Central Valley, it's a brittle Mediterranean temperate climate. And we are right where those fires are. We are above Fresno. We are below Yosemite. So if you can see here, the trees that were there were burned. They're dead. They're standing dead. And then you just have this open area. Do you see the open area? Do you see how there's very few new things coming up other than grasses, and you can even see it here more clearly. It's not coming back. It's switching. The scrub oak are climbing up in elevation and displacing the Douglas fir pine, and the bark beetle is decimating it as the forerunner. See the red? Yeah, so this is where I raised our boys. So it's decomposed granite. That's what that is. It's oxidized and alkaline, pH 8, and it can get up this hot, right? Because it gets in the sun. It's sand, which means it's like broken glass, so it can capture light, hold heat, and transmit it. The Sierra Nevadas in water, they once upon a time had lots of water. California purposely drained the largest body of fresh water west of the Mississippi, Tulare Lake, and created Tulare, the town. And they started diverting all the water from all essentially the key points, if you know key point geometry from, PA Yeoman. These dams have made it so they strategically have taken water above the foothills. See where it's green down that middle? The green? Okay, that's where the water used to go. See how the dams prevent all the water from flowing into the green? They're really good. You see how many little dams there are? Well, they did a damn good job of ruining it, right? And so they dried it out. So when people say it's man-made, yeah, it's just not in the way that they're like advertising, on mainstream media. It's not your car that dried out and caused those fires, okay? It's this. I'm not like saying like combustion engines are the best thing in the world, but like let's pinpoint the exact pressures that are happening in our bioregion and address them like head on and honestly, transparently, and fix these problems. We fled California because we got burned out, because of this. So this is something that I've thought about for years. So what I did, I couldn't move from then. I was living in a garage, and compost tea. But I did it with water kefir grains. And this is how I started out. I started out with a bucket. Started out with a bucket with no bag. Ha, you see that? No bag. And then I got a bag. You can see the bag a little bit under there. I didn't open it far enough to see the bag fully, but there's a bag right there to the left side, right? So I'm aerating it. The pump went from the tiny, I don't know if you can, yeah. So the blue thing at the bottom is the small, like, it looks like a little turtle, and it's a blue one. You've seen these blue pumps for aquariums. That's what I used. Then I got up to this one, right? And then I went even bigger as I figured things out. I used nitrogen fixing legumes everywhere. I used a lot of C4 grasses, and I really focused on diversity, a lot of diversity. And if you know the Miyawaki method, part of the reason why it's so efficient is the different types of exudates stimulate a diversity of microbes. So this give and take, this stimulation is microbial. The reason this builds soil so effectively is we are enhancing the microbial palette and the microbial roster in tandem. And I did earthworks because I needed to hold that water in there to keep my microbes there. Did cover crops. Obviously, that many brassicas, not the best idea. You know what I mean? I didn't know then. If I had only known better, I would have done a greater diversity. I would have done um, a bit more. There's some peas on so the there's essentially two right here, right? So the higher up one that has a lot of peas in it, the lower one has a lot of brassicas. I would add some peas to the lower one, but then the one that's heavily peas, I would also diversify that because if you have too much nitrogen release, again, it imbalances things and causes a carbon release, and we don't want to do that. We need that habitat. So swales are amazing. I made swales. This really helped keeping that water, but it also protected the soil. So if you have soil and you're exposing it in any way, you got to cover it up while those seeds sprout as best as possible. It's otherwise you got to just keep it watered, and that can be costly. And if it's really alkaline or salty, well water, the more water you're adding, the more inhibition you're causing. And so a lot of people, find such great power in watering less once they build up their soils so they can hold more water because their water was needed, but it also had some side effects. You know what I mean? On the biology, on the plant, on the soil, on the pH, on the nutrient availability. As you move the pH up, you lose that availability. So I'm protecting my microbes here. Cardboard, we're doing everything we can. It's all permacultural, working with the boys out there, and it was a huge success. Now, we know that that we got a lot of effect because we could see it in the soil. You saw it at the beginning. You can see it standing up and just looking at the ground. You can see it's white and that sandy color. And then you look below my swale and it's blackish brown. Crazy, right? Exudation, 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 microbial effect. And you could see it in the results, but over time it began to change. So it was so oxidized and alkaline as we acidified, these giant amaranth, which prefer it to be alkaline and oxidized, shrank. So I got bigger tomatoes and smaller amaranth. So there was water kefir grains added to the compost, and it was a pit compost. So it was a static, no-turn pit compost. And I'm convinced to this day this was my best compost. And actually now I'm recreating it and here in Texas. So I did a Johnson Sue for a year and it's really great. I didn't wrap it in plastic because I don't want microplastics because I test compost and a lot of Johnson Sues and I see the microplastics and I just don't want to deal with that. I don't want the human pathogens that are created and promoted by adding microplastics. They're plant pathogens too. Some of them are endophytes and some of them are pathogens, pathogenic endophytes. Heck no. No, thank you. So I didn't put a tightly bound plastic thing up against the biology that I know can digest that plastic and then break it free and then have it in my soil. I'm not going to do that. So I do things a little differently. And my results, as you guys can see, is also a little different from other people's. So that was almost 10 years ago. You might have heard that story, maybe not from that microbial perspective, but you want to hear probably more about today, right? Let's dive into it. So today, the sand is a little bit finer, a little less chunky, right? The decomposed granite was so chunky, but it melted. It absolutely melted with that compost tea. It's stunning. And I was adding rabbit manure on top of it. I was adding compost on top of it. I was I was chopping and dropping and then putting compost on top of it and then putting mulch, right? I was doing everything. So that's part of the reason why it was so good. It just did one thing. I did all the microbial methods. Today, because it's after I've written regenerative soil, I have a little bit more thorough of a process. I'm going to take you through that. But I also want to just show you that, starting off with my original story to show you that I did it, you know, essentially backwards and without understanding, and it still worked out, didn't it? Yeah. So you could be getting there. You could have already done it. You know what I mean? You could have great soil. You could just watching this for fun. Uh, but now I'm explaining the why behind what you did. Because guess what? I studied this and wrote regenerative soil, and then was like, I added water kefir grains, right? So I want to honor you and open that door and be like, right now in the chat, if you've done something on your property that later on, or your site, or your garden, or your community garden, or on a farm, that you were like, oh, I didn't realize until later, and then I realized it was so right. Put that in the comments. Share what that is, because you'll find that other people are feeling the same way. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for adding to the chat. Click down below, share where you're zooming in from, and share an example of something that you just did And then later on, you were like, that was the best thing ever. Add that in there. All right. So this is the site and it is sandy. You don't want to drive into that field. You might not get out because it's sugar sand. And I put some trees in there. The first batch of trees in there I put in there were from California. And little did Matt know, California is not the same. So I put these fruit trees in. Some of them are doing okay, but I'm telling you, folks, if you're in Texas, don't buy from California. Buy from Texas. Texas is big. California is big, but they're big in different areas of the world. And their Zone 7, 8B is not your Zone 7, 8B. Your winter is way harsher. They don't have the winds you have. Your desiccating wind is gonna, change your day. This is me planting asparagus. Asparagus did so well here that the day that, well, the summer that it was record-breaking heat. Remember that where it was over 100 degrees for 2.5 months straight? Remember this? Yeah. Well, they banned watering, and I hadn't put in the commercial irrigation yet. So I couldn't use that as an excuse, and they're doing eye in the sky, and people are getting charged. And so I hand watered in the morning before I in the dark, and I did it to keep the trees alive as best I could. And I didn't water the asparagus, and the asparagus survived, which is absolutely incredible if you think about it. Two 2.5 months, 100 and over 100 degrees, and the asparagus is doing awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, I inoculated everything heavily with our muscular mycorrhizal fungi. So microbes again are a best practice for resiliency because they are the essentially, well, they are the immune system, they are the digestion, they are the protection, they are the stress tolerance of the plant. They're not different from the plant. Are, are the microbes in your gut somehow not you? No, 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 no. The microbes in the gut are literally you because you die without them. We put anyone on like, a year of strong antifungals, they're going to die. You rely upon fungi. You're part fungi, you're part bacteria. So I got these in. You can kind of see uh, like how sandy it is here. Do you guys see how like this is after a rain? You can see all the pebbling on just the sand. Getting some fungal action there. So what have I been doing? Well, I put this book out more recently. It's got number one on new releases, number one bestseller. Uh, I've been testing. I've been doing work on top of what I've learned for regenerative soil. And man, this is the sandiest, siltiest soil I've ever dealt with, ever. I mean, you guys can tell from the picture, from just the image, it's just sand. And so I've been tracking it, I've been measuring it. I got it at the beginning, and this is after that first year of work. And I've been applying solutions. So I've been relying upon the soil food web, applying compost, compost tea, compost extract that are rich in the soil food web members. And the reason I've been doing that and consistently doing it is because if you want the effect of the soil food web, it has to already have been there for a while. A lot of people are like, "Oh, and I've got it, and we're done." And it's like, nope. If your soil can't support that life will only be there for a period of time. You have to re-add it first. Secondly, the microbial manures that stimulate plant growth have to build up to have an effect. It's not like the root like waits and they're like, "Are you gonna go? Are you gonna go? Come on, hurry it up. I'm waiting." No, the root's actually gonna grow so fast it has depletion zone. It just goes. It's doing its thing. It's depleting everything and going as it goes and goes. And then mycorrhizal fungi reaches outside the depletion zone, and so the root can grow, a foot in 24 hours, depending on the plant. And like, if it's like, aquaponics, right? They can see that kind of growth in aquaponics. So really, we need to think about this. There needs to be time. So I need to build it up. So I do compost and compost teas. I don't do it with the idea that there's an immediate, like, we've arrived. It has to be built up. There has to be a flywheel of activity. Got to have those all those soil food web members present. And most of all, the soil food web, that's going to build up with time, but rhizophagy is the most important because it happens immediately. It happens in all plants, happens with the root. The moment the root comes out, that root tip is going to be releasing exudates. It's going to be breeding bacteria and fungi. It's going to be taking them in. It's going to be oxidizing them, and it's going to be destroying some of them, but others they're going to stimulate them as endophytes and have them release nitrogen, and others are going to reform their cell walls and they're going to get pushed out the root hair. And in fact, no root hairs, um, no rhizophagy. You can even see the bacteria right there. And then mycorrhizal fungi. We need mycorrhizal fungi. It partners with over 90%. Mycorrhizal fungi partners with over like 95, 96% of plants. Arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, which this is a picture of, partners with over 90% of plants. So what are the challenges here? Well, this, the Fenton reaction. Do you guys know this? This is what happens to the soil and sun. This is why we don't leave it bare. And this is how we gas off our carbon and our nitrogen. This is exactly at the beginning what we were going to stop, right? Because it was so hot and so alkaline and oxidized, it was going to gas off the carbon and the nitrogen as it broke down. That BS compost. But instead, I could have used amino acids to turn them. I mean, could have used EM to or lactic acid bacteria, or water kefir. Remember, keep your mind open. It's all those things. And I could have turned it into amino acids. And then if, you know, back then I had figured out, I really need to make friends with people who are doing wood chipping. I could have gotten a bigger amount of wood chips like I got, this week and then covered that soil. So we have to remember this is always happening in the more arid climates. And we also have to recognize that nitrogen can be gathered from the air. So we need to work with nitrogen fixers. We need to bring compost. We need to be working with inoculants. We need to be working with the right microbes because it's not the plant that's fixing the nitrogen from the air. It's the microbes that are in the plant leaves and in the plant in the plant hairs. Just like root hairs, there's hairs all over the plant. They're called trichomes. Awesome to see so many people here today. Thank you for being here. Here, let me just adjust this. There we go. All right. So this is a page from Regenerative Soil. Great. And I have a new bulk order in transit. It should be here within a week. I get your emails. I know. I'm sorry. I know I offer it on sale and free shipping, and so you want to buy it from me and not Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and I love that. I love that. It's in transit. I didn't expect to sell out as fast as we did again, but anyway, it's on its way. This is from that book. If you're waiting on it, I apologize for the delay. It'll soon be here. But the reason I wanted to remove that menu thing right there so I could see more clearly is azotobacter, green manure cover crops, legumes, nettles, and even sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are going to be partnering with a nitrogen fixing bacteria. Nettles, legumes, these are all working with specific microbes, as like azotobacter, right? Like rhizobia inoculants. That's what the legumes are. So all of this, I'm saying all this, and there is some like animal manures examples of, and I could put blood meal in there too, probably. Is good at it, but but it's all microbial. And even the biological organic nitrogen sources must be transformed by biology. You can't get around it. It's microbial. And this is why people switching to microbes are getting so much benefit. They're spending so little or not spending any longer on fertilizer. So cover crops with nitrogen fixers plus compost, fish, and kelp fertilizer. So I have kelp fertilizer still, and just EM. Yeah. So I use EM for almost everything. So I have sandy soil. So I looked that up in regenerative soil. We'll be giving away copies. I know I said I sold out, but I have copies all of a sudden. I have sold out. I'm gonna sell you. I'm gonna send you those of you who do the giveaway today. I'm gonna send you slight misprints. So they just have edging, like white exposed. Let me show you. It's really not noticeable, but it's a pet peeve I have. And so I only sell perfect books. So I want to see that white line? That's it. That's the mistake. So I'm going to give these away. There's a limited amount of these mistake ones. But but again, I don't sell dinged books. I don't sell mistaked books with even with a line like that or something like that. I know it's a perfectly functional book, but when you buy a book from me, I want you to get a flawless book. I'm, this is how I do things. So I'm going to give this away. It's a perfectly fine book, but it does have that print mistake. Um, so yeah, you can see it here as well. See, it's just that extra white. You know what I mean? Anyway, my point is that I'm giving these away. I only have, I think, six of them, but we're gonna do that later. But I don't have any other copies. Yeah. Sorry for this the sidebar. So, but look, Bacillus species, lactic acid bacteria, EM, water kefir. Okay. Soak the soil with Bacillus species to solubilize this silicon. How much of the soil is silicon? I'm not saying silicone, silicon, like Silicon Valley. Yeah, it conducts information and holds information, conducts energy and holds energy. Sand are chunks of glass, silt, and clay. All of them are silicates. All of them. So it dissolves the soil to finer particles and feeds that silicon to the microbes and the plant. Makes stronger plant cell walls, right? Who does that? Oh, Bacillus species helps that happen. Huh. Pretty cool, right? Okay. Amend the soil with biochar to increase nutrient, microbial, and water holding capacity. A lot of people think biochar is a fertilizer. This is false. Biochar is physical, and its power is that it doesn't have as much influence, in terms of like nutrients. It can hold things. So yes, if you don't make it biochar, you can have it rob the humus, rob the nutrients, do all these bad things. That's why you don't add raw char to your soil. That's right. You make it biochar and you key it to what you want, the pH, the type of bacteria and fungi you want, and it will hold up to 3 times its mass in water, up to 7 times its weight in water. So it's microbial habitat. Nitrogen fixing legume cover crops. Again, microbial. Um, and then, C4 grasses are hyperstimulating because they bring in so much sugar, reductive sugar into the soil, energized sugars, and it's reduced. So this is reduced sugars. So they're putting out protons, H plus, loosening up the cations, right? But then they're also releasing reduced sugars that are lowering the EH. So the pH is being acidified by protons, and then the EH is being lowered by the reduced. And not only that, the microbes are oxidizing materials inside, around, and on in the right on the root in the rhizosphere. When they do that, when they oxidize something, when they bombard something and oxidize it, they're literally liberating energy. And so there's releases of electrons, further reducing it. So So all these things are happening at the same time. I mean, you guys know redox, right? Anytime you oxidize something, you also you reduce something else. There has to keep that balanced equation, right? Right? Remember, sorry, not trying to bring up moles, the mole equations. It's the worst. I remember talking to Lane Ingham about this a long time ago. She was like, Matt, I'm here to tell you the mole equations they had you do in high school are mostly hypothetical. They don't actually happen in nature. And I was like, yeah. I was like so mad. I was like, I knew it. Anyway, tangent over. So inoculate seeds or transplants with beneficial fungi and bacteria. Why? The rhizophagy cycle. If you start you inoculate seeds with the mycorrhizal fungi and you start the fungi with the root growth, it stays with the root growth the whole time. That's how you get 100% inoculation and no sweat and save money. You put it on the seed. A lot of people have seen it modeled, and I've modeled it too. So maybe I'm partially guilty of not saying enough, but we're only putting inoculant on like transplants when we're getting the bare root trees or we didn't raise that transplant. But if you're raising that transplant yourself and you soaked it and you inoculated it, you can look at the with this, you can look like just like that, right? You can be looking at the root, looking for the glow. And you can verify that your roots are good and then you're transplanting it with knowing that you don't need to add more and spend more money. You guys see? Every step of the way is has been microbial. That has been the biggest change for me. Okay. And then water into the root zones of growing plants, rhizophagus intraradices. Because if you can't inoculate it, you can do this, especially like perennials or something like that, as a spiralium during vegetative growth, and other beneficial fungi like AMF that create soil structure, solubilize phosphorus, occupy the biochar. So you can add things after. It's not as effective. Not as effective. Imagine just doing it on the seed and then taking that seed and spreading it over an acre and having them make huge root masses that then become the inoculant for the soil for next season. Because the word regenerative literally comes from the Bible, it means to come back next season or to resurrect. So these things can come back every single year. And that's what they're supposed to do. It's supposed to die down in winter and look like everything's done. It's gone, and then it comes. The crocuses come out, and the fungi is reactivated and reconnects with new roots, and it essentially is senesced. It's dead, and it comes back to life. It's amazing. So it's microbial. So sandy soils, we got to build up those humic compounds. Notice it's fungal compost teas and compost and Johnson Su, which is fungal, always JMS LIMO. All of these things are fungal in their nature, which again, we're raising our carbon and our organic matter using microbes. And we want plants to help and contribute, right? But they can't do it without the microbes. So again, microbes are the facilitators, micro to macro at all levels, because all of us rely upon those same microbes. What the good microbes in good soil, in good compost, are also in good plants and in good gut biomes in you. So, and then the last one, like keep soils wet, keep soils moist, right? Right. Yeah, it's incredibly important because I mean, here the desiccating wind, the howling, never ceasing wind this week dries things out extraordinarily fast. So my whole throw sow method, right, throwing seeds on the ground, not as effective here because it's just brutal sun and then just wind, 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 wind. Everything gets wicked dry. So we're building a repertoire. So everything prior that I already discussed, plus AMF and azose inoculation, biochar. And We'll be doing giveaways with AMF that I recommend and as us from Extreme Gardening later today. So again, guys, what about the biochar? Right? We're gonna do the biochar too. Let me help Anthony get in. All right. So I'm going to be giving you these things because I want to equip you guys. I want to get you guys started. You can make your own biochar. I don't have to give it to you, but to get make it easy to get you started, to get you to be like, this rocks. I love biochar. And then make your own, it's all I would love that. So, building a Johnson Sioux compost, I did that recent I did that in the intro when I first came up with this idea, I started that Johnson Sioux. It is almost done. And I didn't do a plastic wrapping. It formed a biocrust because of the wind. That's what happens in desert and arid climates. It forms a biocrust. Microbes make it looks dry and it looks like oh, that's not composting. But then you break it and open it and it's dark, dark black. That's what I put a video out on social media yesterday showing. Some people were like, "Your compost doesn't look done." And I was like, "Oh, to the end." And then they didn't respond. Because it's obvious at the end that it's ready to go out as is. I can let it go further, of course. I mean, Michael Stengel, he's shown us that he can recompost his compost. Because guess what nature does? It recomposts the compost, folks. Because it's all composting in situ, right? So we have just a further and further and further and further and further and further breakdown of humic compounds becoming finer and finer and finer. This is what started that whole debate around is humus real? And because there's no set chemical structure for humus, so we cannot accept it as real. It's like, you guys know the word humus. The etymology of the word humus is that it's soil. Right. So it's the organic matter in soils that came to be, but it's just really silly. There's like a lot of silliness, and that extreme, that absolutism, that very cockeyed way of thinking is ubiquitous now, and that's why my book, though it's very straightforward in many ways. I mean, pH too alkaline, pH too acidic. Like this is so basic, right? But guess what? This is how you actually fix things. Nature is not this overly like convoluted thing. It makes sense. It has patterns. And pH too alkaline, you got to add organic matter because that's going to buffer things out. That's going to bring you closer to pH 7. If you're too acidic, it's the same effect. I'm gonna stop telling. I'm gonna avoid aeration in an alkaline context, or I'm gonna need to get down to the level where there's compaction and anaerobic or buildup of salts and break it up, and maybe I need to amend. And if you're too acidic, you might need to aerate and amend and rip the soil. If you're at 5.5 and you're high aluminum, you need to do that for the safety of your clients, your customers, and your family, right? Yeah, make right because otherwise, solubilizing aluminum. Heck no. I have a whole tangent on that. I'm probably going to put out as a video this week because I'm in my research. I've figured out a bunch of things about aluminum, glyphosate, and the reason why things are testing so high. And people are like, it's only from the silicates that are aluminum silicates that are in that soil because of it's become more acidic. And it's like, yeah, we're seeing this in the alkaline soil too, but and there's a reason, and it likely is glyphosate. So I'm going to talk about that later this week. But yeah, we got to fight back. We got to protect ourselves. We got to use common sense and help farmers use that common sense too, because it's really worrisome. So we're gonna do a soil soak, limo, EM, brown rice vinegar, acidifying vinegar, microbially stimulating vinegar, brown rice vinegar, apple cider vinegar. These things are microbially generated, actually, aren't they? Right? Yes. So all these things, right? These are things that we already said. I water and EM regularly. I keep things moist. We have high salinity in the area. EM's really good at that, and biochar's really good at that. I'm not going to do sodium accumulating plants and then remove them. I'm not going to worry about that. Um, but Johnson Su is really good at that. That's also why I did the Johnson Su. So everything prior, I've got recipes for this in regenerative soil. I'm going to tell you a secret. If you look up New Mexico University, um, NMU, David Johnson, compost or bioreactor PDF, or you get my book and go to the back to the link, you can get the original. And I have it, pictures and I have all these different things of it, but his original design is also publicly available. So, yeah. So I also really like how people have created modifications on what David has done because the reality is that it is in the variations that we get a deeper understanding of how this is effective. I like it, but I am still going to do a pit compost. And I'm sure we'll get faster results with the pit compost is why. In an arid, windy climate, not using the plastic wrapping, not, it's gonna take longer. But I just don't want to use the plastic wrapping. Sorry. I like you, Dr. David Johnson, but the plastic wrapping, I can see. I know you can't see the plastics. That's what's going on. It's just like so many of my mentors, like, oh, they don't DNA test, but I love her. Right? Right. Oh, you don't test for epifluorescence or microplastics, but I love you, bud. You know, they're doing great things. They just don't see the whole picture. And that's kind of, what my talent has been. I've been able to take in the whole picture and honor all the amazing people doing amazing things and showcase why they're doing amazing things, what it was that made it great. But yeah, there's missing pieces. So I got to use more compost. It has to be low in phosphorus. So 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 what does that mean? Well, I want to rely upon our vascular mycorrhizal fungi. So the more phosphorus I have, the more inhibition I'll have of that. So I need to make sure my compost before it goes in is low in P. And so I got to use EM. I got to bioaccumulate in the yeast. And this is well documented. I mean, I also can see it. You can't hide from me, buddy. You know what I mean? I can see the glow. And I also can see that it's not everyone that's glowing, so there wasn't enough to go around. And when I test this, it's really low in phosphorus. So I know those things have been eaten, and now they're not tested because they're embodied. And yeah, I know everyone finds it worrisome. They're like, "That's your EM. It's gonna explode," right? And everyone's like, "Call." Like the first time I posted this, literally people were like, that's a hazard to everyone in the neighborhood. It's going to explode. Like, what neighborhood do you live in? That like, I mean, I'm on 24 acres. Like, we could, I don't know. And I've been working with water for a long time. Yeah, other than like the cap flying off and hurting someone, and I do get gas it off so that the pressure doesn't get too great. But I need the pressure. I need the pressure to force it to get through the sugars and then start feeding on the CO2 because there's a succession of feeding with purple sulfur bacteria, and so uh, this is important. Ready? So they feed on the sugar, they release CO2, that creates that pressure. You do this with bokashi when you make bokashi, and then they switch and start eating CO2, and they start eating the byproduct of eating sugars. And then and then when they switch to that, they start pumping out protons. And so protons, remember, that's acidifying. This is why it gets down to pH 3.5, right? Right? Isn't that what you want in your garden? To Oh well, my Australian friends, I'm sorry, Montana friends, Eastern Washington friends, you're like, wait, I don't want that. What are you talking about? Aluminum. I know, okay. But everyone else, you just created a proton factory. And now your protons can go out and remember the protons are the thing that the photosynthesis, the plant roots releasing and then releasing the cation. Oh yeah, you're helping the plant do that too. They're endophytes that can do that. Think about that. Think about that. They're endophytes that can do that. They can help the plant on the outside, help the plant on the inside. Microbial solutions that you can do. So how did I make this? The thing is, you lean harder into the microbes, you get a better result. I don't like doing the bare minimum. I like really guaranteeing that it comes out nice. I've been making this so long that I always just, especially with it's this big, it's a lot of money, in terms of like what it like street market value of EM that much. Oh boy, that's thousands, right? So 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 I really wanted to go right. So 5 gallons of EM that's already made, already good in there, 2 gallons of molasses or 2 gallons of brown sugar, and then just topped off with water and then capped for 3 to 4 weeks outside. It's outside and they remove the pee from biofertilizer ferments. And also, I train microbes to eat insects. A lot of people do it different ways. I just do it by making a compost and at the same time making a compost tea or EM and then letting the bugs collect in the EM and die. Yeah, in the compost tea and die. And then when they're dead and feel like they're like hundreds of them on top like a or so what I do is I basically have this barrel that I don't get to the bottom of when I'm pumping out biofertilizers. And then I leave the bottom of it with like 2 inches of biofertilizer for a day or two before I come back and then clean everything. Especially because what happens is the UV sun dries all the edges out and like makes it so that it releases some, and so that when I scrub it, it's much easier and I'm not doing this constantly, so taking breaks is part of it. And so that bottom fills up with insects, and then I pour that off onto the compost, and then the combination of those two things, one that's more oxidized, one that's more alkaline, one that's more reduced, with those dead bugs in it, they start eating the dead bugs. And now I've got a compost that I can turn into a compost tea that will digest the bugs because the fungus that eats the bugs is right there. So again, a microbial solution. And you're like, Matt, does this hurt the good bugs? Well, yeah, of course it does. You're only going to be worried about this when there's like really pest pressure, which is going to be hitting in the middle and the end of summer when humidity is high and heat is high, and your calcium transport slows down because evapotranspiration slows down because there's no differential between the moisture in the air and the moisture in the soil. This is why water soluble calcium is so incredible. So biochar, it's something that I do. It's something that I'm going to continue doing. I love Kelpie Wilson's biochar book. I I'm trying to find it really quick. I've got a shelf here, guys, and I like grab books from the shelf in the middle. I got it. Yes. Ba ba ba. All right, and is this the one she signed? Yes. So when I prize possessions, and of course, I already got it dirty. I'm really good at that. But it's soil. It's good. So anyway, this biochar handbook is superb. This is the Ring of Fire. I'm gonna get one, and I'm gonna go big with biochar, and it's just I'm gonna do more. I'm gonna do more with biochar. I'm gonna level it up. I'm really excited about it. And my son, he's older now. He's 18, but he still always shows up and works with me when I really need it. And biochar is something we love doing together. And so I deliver it that I literally have a pump and I pump it out of there into a 5 gallon, then pour the 5 gallon into the other barrel. and then pump it from there with a it's actually very, very simple. It's a garden hose pump, and I don't have any pressure behind it. I just put it in there and start it, and it goes boom and pulls it out and puts out a pressure enough that I put my thumb on the end and spray it up to 50 feet. So, and yes, the it does go downhill slightly. So there's more pressure, you know what I mean? Which is smart. You don't want to burn the engine out. But this is what I do. And it's not hard. It really isn't hard. And this is what a typical inoculation looks like. This is what it looks like under the microscope with epifluorescence. And this is what it looks like when I'm doing my legumes, my cover crops. You know, I'm inoculating with rhizobia, I'm inoculating with mycorrhizal fungi, and I'm pouring an EM into that water. So all my seeds I save as well because I understand that the endophytes and the information that they gain from that season is encoded in them. So they're carrying microbes and they're carrying information about that site that are unique. And I do chop and drop. Chop and drop is incredibly powerful. Like, I mean, look how this has been transformed. I transformed this with cutting things down and then adding the right microbes. And then it turned into a field from Scotch broom. So I really rely upon recycling the biomass of a site, being as biodynamic as possible, using mulch. I'm putting out mulch right now, and you can see here what it really looks like. And this was a year ago. I can do another new one of these, but you can see it's steamy hot here, and we can see that up close. You can even see the individual grains of sand on the organic matter. When we say organic matter is a buffer, we literally mean it physically is creating space in between the other sand particles. Literally. And you can physically see it. And just like, in California where I was started out, you can at first I could dig down and see the differential between the top soil I'm building and the sand below. But I believe what will happen is just like in California, within 4 or 5 years, there's going to be no differentiation between the layers. And yeah, I know that's a little bit longer than I took in California, but it's really hot here, and that wind is wild. So it's just very different. I mean, it dries out so profoundly here. So anyway, we've had some great success. Asparagus has been the best. Had some great squash. We've had some great cover crops, some radishes and turnips. Yeah, they got big. But the increase in soil organic matter has been the big, like the biggest gain that I think we've had, and you can really see the results in the plant's reactions. I've been able to grow my best tasting and largest melons of any place I've ever lived this past season. Beautiful squash. Squash has always been easy for me. I don't get powdery like mildew, downy, all that kind of stuff. I never get those things. I don't get squash borers. I think it is because people aren't partnering with microbes. I'm watering myself. I'm watering myself. Oh my gosh. I'm watering my field myself all the time and observing things like right there. It's not like I have this. I plan on automating and regularly observing still, but now I water by hand. So it's a lot of observation, and I value that observation. And then the most vibrant colors, some really, really thick fleshed varieties, and just so many melons, so many melons, so many melons, exciting melons. And so it was about bringing the fertility back to the site. Every step of the way was facilitated by microbes. So use those biofertilizers, my friend, because you have an opportunity to transform your soil. And It it will take effort, it will take time, but it will be worth it because when we return plants to their natural state, something special happens. And this is just one aspect. Microbes are ubiquitous, right? They're involved in all the aspects. That's why it's an overlap, but it's also just one aspect, right? So we got to know the minerals. We got to know the different forms of organic matter. We got to understand the best practices and the plant health pyramid for plant roots and photosynthesis. What can we expect? Pest, infection, virus, and disease immunity. Yeah, we have plants that just they don't get sick. They don't get eaten. The bugs, we can track the bugs. We can see them. They don't eat that plant. It's because it's so healthy. It's indigestible to those microbes. And that's partly because its high nutrient density is prohibitive for that microbe to or that pest to eat it. The the stronger the cell wall, the harder it is for them to break through. And it's faster maturation rates and higher yields because it's so much more efficient. And then it smells better and tastes better on top of all that and has such an impact on what we put in. There's so much less work. That's the number one thing I hear from farmers. They're like, well, now I get to go to my kids' soccer games and I don't spend as much on diesel because I don't go out there more than twice and I don't do the toxic pesticides anymore. And like, it is glorious because they're doing less and it's giving them more choice and power in their life. And it's just less work over time. So healthy soils create healthy plants, which create healthy people and animals. Isn't that true? It's true. We have the science, we've got the personal experience, and we all deep down know this has to be true. I mean, because we know the we know the opposite is true, right? Contaminated soils lead to contaminated plants, which cause outbreaks that affect our animals and people. So, using just this book, people are doubling their harvests. It's just an incredible, incredible thing. This was the USU permaculture garden in Utah. They actually they were using my prior book, the one that I did with Lane Ingham, and it they doubled it once they applied this. So so it's a game changer, a total game changer. Soil food web, EH charts, all the cycles, all the recipes, down to, the exact precise recipes and measurements so that you can do this. You can grow those biofertilizers at home. You can do, literally, you can create your own rhizobium, like alginate coating on your seeds and dry them down. Yeah. For seed storage with the inoculant on them. So what if your soil improved every season significantly? The new season begins May 12th, regenerativesoilscience.com. Check it out when you get a chance. Thank you for being here. Let's do some Q&A. Let's do some giveaways. I appreciate you guys. How was that? All right. All right. It was fun. I haven't been able to like really go through those kinds of stories, retelling them from the micro perspective, but it's amazing how everything comes back to the microbes. You can't escape it. I mean, we can't escape it either. It's like good luck trying to like you'll have to have like IV bags of nutrients that you IV in, intravenously take in to survive, or you rely upon the microbes to digest your food. That's it. And so in other words, without the microbes, none of us would be here. So we are all dependent upon the microbes. Christine says, amazing, thanks. Scarecrow says, that was excellent. Thank you so much. Heather Haskins says, it's a lot. Well, that's why I take 20 weeks to explain it all. Yeah. And that's why I have lifetime access to these things so people can watch them over and over again. And that's why I wrote a book out with pictures that show all the cycles of the nutrients and the microbes so that you can see it and trace it and then you can see it in real life and make that micro to macro connection on your own because it's not even useful unless you have that understanding, right? I mean, we could just say words and things at you all day long, and it won't make any difference if you actually don't have the fluency to take the action. So that's why that book is so useful. People literally, like I said, they used the book. They didn't even take the course, right? And they doubled their yields. So check out that book. I'll announce it when I get it. Um, I probably will pick them up next Thursday because we're live next Friday, so I can't go get them. But I'll advertise it when I get it. But but that's why that book is so powerful. So much of life can be explained with so much more clarity than we can convey in a short period of time in like moving pictures. You know, the written word is incredibly powerful. I'm also a little bit smarter with my written word. If you guys have noticed, who's here has read my book? I'm pretty good. I'm actually better at creating in the moment connections and having breakthroughs when I speak, but I write way better than I speak, don't I? Maybe not. I don't know. You guys could disagree about that, but I think that I write better than I speak. Thank you for being here. One step at a time, says Derek. Caleb says a lot. Laugh out loud. Oh my gosh. That's so funny. Well, I'm telling you, stick with me. And I have so many students that value this information. So many people have just gotten the book and gone so far. Some people that take these webinars that you're currently in, and by the end of the series, they're like, you confirmed so much of what I was dealing with. And just the webinar alone was enough value for them to unlock and go to another level. So I know it's a lot, but I really want to bring that value. I really want to show you what's possible. Lynn says, I love the book. Valerie says, helpful. Ryan says, again and again, I learn something every time you speak. I love it. Thank you, Ryan. Good to see you. Question, any tips for homemade potting mix for starting plants? So, what is the goal, Eric? Just do your question again, and I'll find. But let me know what the actual goal is. Are we doing house plants that are going to stay in the house? Are we going to do plants that you're transplanting? Like, what is the purpose? Because the potting mix is going to change. Is it perennials? Is it, you know what I mean? Because if I'm doing, starting plants, I'm going to lean more towards like compost and sharp sand and a little bit of native soil. So the plants know the native soil because they're sharp sand makes it run. So because the water runs through it quickly, those roots chase it, and so you get great root development. And the compost, I would key the compost like precisely. So low phosphorus compost. This would be compost that you let like age, right? This would be aged compost that is not too high on nitrates. Okay. And not too, yeah, you don't want it too exciting. You want a little bit of depleted older compost because you want the rhizophagy, you want the arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi to take strong. They don't take strong unless there's a reason. Give them too much nitrogen, no nitrogen fixation. You give them too much phosphate, no mycorrhizal fungi formation. So you gotta using that. This is another reason why I have, I have two composts going right now, and I want to set up well, yeah, I've got well, technically three. So, but it's because they provide completely different things, and I do want something that's old. I want something that's new because they do different things, you know. So having older compost that's a little bit depleted of that heat that nitrogen, and is low in phosphorus is key for that. But then here, let me scroll down. Vegetable starch. Okay, perfect. So that'll be perfect. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do that. Do that. Like everything I just said. That'll be perfect for vegetable starts. I was worried you're going to be like, well, it's all orchids, Matt. The book I'm always looking over my shoulder to pick up, Landon. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Landon. I am still reading your book. It's fantastic. I learned so much, says Jasmine. Thank you. Thank you. We missed the laugh in the book, says, oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Is that Argles or Ar? Well, it would be Argles. Yeah. I miss the name Argyle. It's right up there with, Archibald. Like there's all these names we lost. I, I'm an English major. I was a Brit Lit major. So I got all these crazy names in the back of my head that like just don't exist anymore. Gar says, excellent read. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate that. All right. So when I do the contest, if you're going to compete, you got to have someone in mind that you either want to give it to or you don't already have it, right? We all come off smarter in writing, I think, especially if we're trying to talk on camera. Thanks, Caleb. Well, also, I mean, I'm always editing. As a writer and as a teacher of writing, I've been teaching writing for a long time. And I tell my sons, literally, I'm like, oh, well, I don't even consider the first creative act of writing to be real writing. That's like part of real writing. You're creating it, but then you need to switch your hat and you need to become the editor and the reviser. And that is where real writing happens. Like 80 to 90%, maybe 95% of the work for me happens in that stage. I create and then spend forever, working on it. And I know you're like, forever, Matt. You wrote that book in 12 months. Now you know. Like I write and then I polish and I polish and I polish. And so, man, I appreciate you guys. Why do I have trouble with cucumber beetles? Last year I used predator nematodes, but I'm not sure if it is a holistic practice. That can be a great, band-aid. That's not bad. You know what I mean? It's a biological thing. You're going. That makes sense. It's good. But you need to go to the root of why those cucumber beetles are being able to attack you. And if you get, I'll advertise the book. So if we go to the plant health pyramid with the four stages of plant health starting page 120, we can find out that it's the first two stages that you'd be dealing with that. And so that's magnesium, sulfur, molybdenum, and boron, nitrogen, phosphorus, manganese, iron. Those are the things that are deficient. And then the microbes that back those up. Those two stages are photosynthetic and nitrogen synthesis, protein synthesis. So, hey, isn't that the beginning of our entire journey here today? What would I have done if I had known better? Photosynthesis, excess sugars, simple sugars, that's yeast. It's an endophyte. It will eat those excess yeast and restart, hit the reset button, give you CO2 back. Nitrogen. Not too many nitrates, they call in pests. Lactic acid bacteria turns them into amino acids, saves the plant energy. So it's it is these minerals, but it's also those microbes. And doing both is best practice. And this is like minerals, right? So this is the John Kemp perspective, right? And I am a synthesis. And then you're like EM, that's Terriganus Dr. Higa, right? And it has been this process of combining all these perspectives to get that deeper understanding that this book has been. So I've got all the mineral cycles. This is the only book that has them all. And we even have cobalt in there. So it is absolutely worthwhile. And again, like I said, it is simply um whoop, it's this white edge that makes this a misprint. So I'm giving these away free because I don't sell dinged booked, and I don't sell misprints. So this is a $70 value, and we're just gonna give away two of these today, and we're gonna do a t-shirt as well today. And we're gonna do biofertilizers. So I have a goodie bag from our future. I have a few goodie bags left from our future. EM1, azospirillum, mycorrhizal fungi, biochar, and so much more. So I'll be sending that out to some winners today. And yeah, let's just begin. What's something new you learned today for the giveaway, for the book? We'll give away two books. So what's something new you learned today? Caleb says, my biggest takeaway, something new, was that just compost tea and such can melt rock. Mind blown. Yeah. You said it before. I've been watching for a while, but it just hit different this time. Something I need. Thank you for that. Thank you, Caleb. I'm so happy that I was able to finally get it right. I love it. Don't use plastic for composting. Yeah. And the more and more people that get this machine, the more and more people are gonna like have that deep, uh, I can't do that now because they know. And that's really what happened to me. I'm like, I got to do a really good Johnson Sue. The world's watching me, and I can't do the plastic. And I know it will make it better because it'll hold moisture. I know it'll make it better. It'll hold the air and all that. And I couldn't make myself do it because I knew. So I really appreciate you for that. Thank you for sharing that. All of it. I'm a newbie, says Jennifer. Thank you for being here. Eric says how roots take bacteria in and out. Awesome, Eric. Thank you for being here. Eric, I want to send you this book because this book is going to blow your mind because there's so much more. So, Eric H., congratulations. Email me at mattpowerssoil@gmail.com. That simply is mattpowerssoil@gmail.com. So, Eric H., congratulations. Thank you for being here. Andre says, when applying these methods to large scale row crops, what would be your recommended approach, especially thinking about making sure the inoculants and compost teas are beneficial? The goal is to completely and eliminate synthetic inputs, but I'm not, but I'm sure the answers are in your book. Well, I can tell you some things right now, though. So, number one, focus on the seed, because it's everything's compact, everything's small. You put the least amount of investment on there and you get the most benefit. So don't add it to the field. You're like, oh, I've got compost. Make the compost and add it as a compost extract to the seeds. Don't don't try to add it to the whole field. Especially if you're above like 2,000 acres, right? Like that's going to feel like a fool's errand, right? And then the monetary side of that, like buying compost, no. Make really good compost or get really good indigenous soil and then make a compost extract and add it to your seeds and then plant those seeds. And that's going to be the biggest bang for your buck. And in terms of getting rid of synthetic inputs, there's a bunch of things you can do. If you're adding urea and something like that, you could be mixing that with EM and then adding it in. And that will literally, you actually can cut your urea inputs by 50% if you're already doing that. So I say this because a lot of people are in a position where this is the way we do it. We need to have a guaranteed result is a business. And so this is the best way to transition using Terraganics. Actually, their business model now is to promise we can cut your nitrogen inputs by 50%. And it's literally what they do. And so they're literally mixing urea with EM, like the EM we started with today, and they're increasing soil organic matter dramatically, like super fast. At the same time, they're 50% less input cost from nitrogen. And at the same time, they're getting better plants and soil formation. So, because it blunts the effects of urea, of synthetically derived nitrogen, you don't have the like you don't have the thing that's holding things back. Instead, there's not that damage. So you can go forward faster. And then all those guys start going, so this is microbes? You saving 50% because of microbes? What other microbes you got back there, bud? Come on. Holding out on me with microbes? Let's go. And they'll flip. They'll get excited and they'll be like, this is the way it's done. It's microbes. You know, because they've been duped by these other guys this whole time. And the other guys are like, trust me, bro. And then the next year they're like, it wouldn't work out so good. And the chemical salesman's like, let me buy you a new car. And they literally do. They literally bribe them. Do you guys know that? They wine and dine the bigger farmers. They buy them vacations for their families and fly them out to places so they keep the chemical train going. Yep. So, yeah, we got to get people out of this system. And the reality is you'll make way more money once you get away from those people. And so their whole system is a system that pulls the value out of you instead of putting the value into you, your business, the soil, and your legacy so that maybe your kids can take it over, right? So I really, really value regenerative ag approach because we're liberating farmers and we're doing it openly, transparently, so that they can verify it themselves. We're we're standing on truth. We're standing on economic truth. We're standing on biological truth, and it resonates. And that's why we're seeing the change because it's actually economical, which is, I think, one of the greatest miracles. Plant microbes are the best. The importance of EM. Wow, says Laura. Yeah, yeah, I know. I love it too. Laura, I'm going to send you a book. So, Laura, email me at mattpowerssoil@gmail.com. All one word, Matt Power Soil, MATT. Thank you so much for being here. All right. What's one thing that you guys are going to do for the t-shirt? What's one thing you're not going to do because of today? What's something that you learned today that you're like, from now on, I'm adding my water kefir grains to my compost or my compost tea? I don't know. From now on, I'm gonna try EM this month. I'm gonna give it a shot. You know, this is one of my favorite t-shirts. Let me know in the comments what's an action you're gonna take. Mulch to reduce the water usage, says Adrienne. Argos biodynamics says biochar is becoming part of my garden. Yes. Gar says we will not allow a bare soil. Yes. Christine says biochar and EM to the fields. I love it. Andre says amazing. Thank you so much for that answer. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys being here. Tuan says, I'm going to try compost tea to help my ground. Yeah. Krista says, adding water keeper to the garden. Let's go. After I figure out more info on dilution and all the science to go with it. I love it. I love it. Scarecrow says, gonna start leaving some bugs in my brew to target the Japanese beetles. That is exactly what to do. Passive, simple, easy, and powerful. Adding and learning to make biochar. I want says Rusty. Christine says, I want to set up an EM lab. I've already built gathering boxes. I love that. That's fascinating. Andrea says, build a Johnson Suit composter without plastic. Yes. David Street says, persuade my farmer to use EM. Yes, David Street. I want to send you a t-shirt. You can wear the t-shirt when you go. email me at mattpowersoil@gmail.com so I can send you a t-shirt for you to wear when you go talk to that farmer. I love it. Laura says, build up the soil and have healthy bug-free plants. Yes. And I'm going to give you biofertilizers to do it, Laura. Email me at mattpowersoil@gmail.com and I will send you a goodie bag with biofertilizers in it. Yes. Christine says, Johnson Sue this year for me too. Yes. Yes. This is amazing. Ryan says, start getting more loads of wood chips and spray it with activated EM. To prevent it from creating a fire. Excellent. Some people are like, wait, what? Yeah, giant piles of wood chips will catch on fire if left unattended. It's just nature and how it works. Thank you for being here. Frank says, probably be making a Johnson Sue. I always want to get a microscope so I can start seeing what's really going on with my soil. Frank, I'm going to send you a goodie bag too, okay? All right. I'm going to send you one. Everyone, email me at mattpowersoil@gmail. Those of you who won. And everyone else, I hope that you join us next week because we're going to keep doing giveaways. We're going to go deeper with the learning. And yeah, we're gonna keep learning together and do Q&A. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I appreciate you all so much. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. I will see you all next week. Have a wonderful weekend and week. Have a great one.
Thanks, Matt.
Regenerative soil is the breakthrough that farmers and gardeners all over the world are using to unlock the full potential of their plants and soils. Universities are doubling their yields. Farmers are increasing their water holding capacity by thousands of gallons of water per acre per year. Gardeners are seeing pest pressure disappear and evaporate. The most challenging aspects of growing food are being addressed by focusing on the linchpin to all life, the soil. If we can get our soil right, we can grow amazing food, raise amazing animals, and overcome all of these challenges. We skip the pests, the diseases, the viruses, and soil damage. We instead focus on making things better and better. So our food, yields, and nutrition continue to improve exponentially with every single season. Learn to understand soil from the micro to the macro, down to the individual microbes, ions, and enzymes, and how they directly relate to hands-on action and pragmatic strategies for our farms, fields, and gardens. We can grow food faster with higher yields and nutritional density, but it all comes down and comes back to your soil. Is it resilient? Is it regenerative? Join us and change the way you see the world, food, soils, and everything and how it relates. I'm Matt Powers. Grow abundantly, learn daily, and live regeneratively. And click that link. Join us this season. Don't miss out.